Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Chai Room. My name is Asad Faruqi. I am joined once again by Mr. Rizwan Masood.
Today, our topic is the immigration, why we migrated, what happened, what happens. A lot of people migrate, and everyone has their own reason. Sometimes we become explicit why, sometimes we don't talk about it. So, here, I think we want to bring certain things on the table, and we would like to have that conversation today.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about why did we come to America, and we didn't mention this yet, but I'm a millennial. He is Gen X, and these two. Before we get into why, these two generations amongst Desi men don't really talk that much to each other about why. Like they don't ask those important questions about life. It's just life kind of happens. You live in the same home, and then you move forward. Well, I came here not by choice. I was only 8 years old. I did not want to come here. I loved Pakistan. I was born in Karachi. Had a really good life there. Whatever anyone who's 8 years old would have. It was a really fun time, just growing up there, going to school there, and I was very much in tune with that culture. And ultimately, we moved, and I didn't know why we were moving. I had no idea. I just found out that we were moving. And I think a lot of that has to do with not necessarily my parents hiding it from me, but me being 8, not understanding why. But we ultimately moved because of my mother's terminal illness. She had cancer, and we had to come here for treatment. And before I continue on that story, I'd like to really ask you real quickly, why did you move here?
I think my move was I moved twice to US. So first was because of education, and I came here to play cricket and then stuck around, and I went to go for my education. So that was the first stint. Then I went back. Then I went back to Pakistan. And 2004 again, we had the opportunity to migrate. But at that point in time, I landed up in a very good job. I was working for an international bank. So the economic reason was not there for to move out. But I think there was a thought that we should take that opportunity and go. And we delayed it for 5 years. We did not move. And I think the main reason why we were delaying it because I was doing very well economically, and the role and the job I loved, I was there. But here comes 2008 and 9, and political things change in the country. So the guy who we used to call Mr. 10% suddenly became president of the country.
Uh-huh. What was his name?
Asif Ali Zardari.
Okay.
Right? Who doesn't know in Pakistan who was Mr. 10%?
Well, people here may not know.
Yeah. So, and he just became the president of the country. And my elder daughter, who was at that point in time 19, we were thinking her to put her in university. So it was a pivotal point for us to take that decision. Should we go or we should not go, and should we let it go? Part of me was saying let it go, but part of me was saying no. For next generation, with this political uncertainty and people who are in the power, probably is not the right thing. So I think that triggered that whole process, and we moved here in 2009 with the family, and I stuck around back there in Pakistan for some more time. Okay. And that was, I think the trigger was political, economic situation, and for the next generation that they should have, they should not lose this opportunity. But I tell you one thing. So I have 3 kids, 19, the next one was 14, and the younger one was 10. So they all took it differently.
Yeah.
The elder one, she went to university. The middle one, she was really, really upset that why we are moving. Because she has to lose her friends. She's in the, she was doing her O levels, A levels. She was really settled. And the younger one didn't care because he was a little too young to take that decision, probably a little older than you, but you were in that same age where you couldn't justify that why this move was happening. But I always justified it was for the family. So we say this, we'll talk more on this. It was my ambition, it was economic reason, family, future. I think these are the subjects we would like to bring it on the table.
It reminds me because I have two older sisters as well, and they took it very differently. My oldest sister did not want to move. She was, I think, completing her A levels, which is, I believe, is like 11th grade
Yeah.
over there. And it's a British school system in Pakistan. And she actually stayed for that. She stayed an extra year. She stayed with my uncle, my mamu, and my mumani for a year to complete that before she came to the U.S. to complete her senior year in high school. And it was, it was really difficult because it seemed, when you have a good life, which we did in Pakistan, and you move, all of a sudden you pack up and you start over. And so my father started over. He had to leave a great job that he had, and he had to find something, in Atlanta, which is where we moved. And it was hard. We moved into a, 2-bedroom apartment, which was a huge departure from the house that we lived in Pakistan in terms of size. And I didn't understand why, because again, the point of view was that of an 8-year-old. But sometimes I feel that's good because, when I was a child, when I was 8, that stuff didn't matter that much. These things matter so much more when you become an adult, but when you're a kid, you just kind of want to have fun and you're going with it. But with that being said, my relationship with the United States and just kind of how I feel about it and have felt about it is a bit fickle and one of not necessarily love because of all the circumstances and kind of what the move to the U.S. reminds me of, which is my mother, and who passed away when I was 11. So she only survived 3 years, and those 3 years were really tough because she was literally getting worse and worse and worse. She had breast cancer, which I think eventually became bone cancer, and yeah, I mean that's I feel now when I think about it, that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of, whenever I think about the U.S. and what it started off for me and what it means to me, my relationship that's formed with it is attached to that, and that's why it's a bit tricky. And I don't.
Yeah, because
have a love
sometimes I
affair with
feel that you are more Pakistani than I do because your love for the food, you want to go there, your knowledge about the country,
it. Yeah.
and your passion to watch Pakistan cricket at times, right? So, right? So yeah, I think that's because of that trauma you had, or why? Because you
Yeah.
you spent most of your life here,
Yeah.
but you are still so rooted and connected back home. What is the reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, because all my happy memories are attached to Pakistan. Being a kid, going to school, it was just happier, right? It just didn't occur to me that, this everything related to the first 3-4 years of America was sadness, for that very reason. And I think because all the happy memories are attached to Pakistan, and mainly with my mom, right? Again, I only had her until the age of 11, and I really had a good relationship or a happy relationship with her up until 7 or 8. And all those years were in Pakistan. So because the happiness and my memories are all attached to her or attached to Pakistan, I kept up with Pakistan. So I like speaking my own language. I've kept up with Urdu. I've grown up on Bollywood movies. I listen to only like Desi music, as you know.
Yes.
I only eat pretty much just Pakistani or Indian food, Desi food in general is, what I eat. I don't enjoy necessarily having burgers, and it doesn't make sense because I moved here when I was 8. So at this point, you would think that somebody who's 8 is young enough and in their formative years that they will adapt to everything American. But in a way, I'm kind of happy that I didn't. What about you though? Because you had a choice to move here, whereas I didn't really have a choice. I had to because I was a minor. What's your relationship been like with America, and then how has that changed also when it comes to your relationship with your family?
I think let me go back in the years of when I came here first, right? So that's the first exposure to US when I came here for education. So I think in back home, because I used to play cricket, so everything was around cricket, and once you lose track, then it used to be very difficult to go and complete your education, because once you miss that beat, you're just done, right? So here there was a blockade for me for if I wanted to go for more education. So here comes the US. I got the opportunity, I came here. So it opened up for me. So I was able to go to university. They did not discriminate. They gave me the admission and I studied. So I think that American dream, or it was true for me to really come here and then
And that's the first move. That's not.
that's
with
the first
family.
move. Yeah, that's the first
before
move, right?
You had a family.
But yeah, I always wanted to go back to Pakistan
Yeah.
because that was there, because the parents were there, family was there. So I went back. So then I started working, and then here comes in 2004 again.
Yeah.
Again, another opportunity where the family push was that we move because it's better to move here, better economic opportunities. But at that point, I was working well, so it was everything was all right.
And I think one thing before he continues, I feel that when because we didn't move here for greener pastures or a better life, your family, you did, and for the people listening, I think one thing that's really important to understand, especially if you're born in America and you've lived your entire life in America and consider yourself only American, why do immigrants leave their countries? It's because, our country was colonized and it still is struggling. It's only, how old? It's 75 years old.
Yeah.
It's not a very old country, and it's gone through all kinds of ups and downs because of the way it was founded. And that's really important to understand. It's not because we want to move out or we hate the country. It's because the way the economy works there is not how most economies work in fully developed nations or Western nations, if you'd like. But yes, continue.
Yeah, I think mostly whenever we speak to people, it's the move is because of the economic reasons, because you're not able to do certain things. It could be political, it could be religious. Very few people get into that space as well. But largely, if you look at and talk to people, it'll be more economic reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is humankind, right? So people used to move because of economic reasons, survival, and all this historically. But these boundaries started happening after World War II, where the visas, the passports, the approvals started coming in.
Yeah.
So now probably it has become a taboo that why you move, why you are, because before this there was no restriction. People used to move around very easily. So coming back to my reasons, I think it was more for a long-term future of the kids, and we moved. And that creates a lot of, I think, challenges.
Yeah.
Because once you move, how cultural integration needs to take place, or what your kids let them do and what you don't let them do, how you create that boundary for them. I think that becomes a real question and challenge for a lot of families when they move here. For the elder one, it was they both adjusted very well, but the younger one, I think he had to go through that process to get integrated here.
Yeah.
But for me, it was purely for a better future for the kids, because my ambition was going all right, because I was working well, whatever I thought I should be doing professionally, so I was able to do, and I had those opportunities. And then what happened when we moved here, and I used to work for an international organization. When I told them that I'm leaving the organization, so they said, "Oh, we'll post you outside Pakistan."
Yeah.
So they sent me to Singapore. And then there was a dilemma that, okay, I moved them here, I'm there, so how we bridge this gap? Because they are going through that immigration process, the kids are in school, so should I pull them out and bring them to Singapore and let it go? So I think that I kept struggling with that.
So, because you brought that up, you were in Singapore and then Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I believe for 11 years, right? 12 years?
8 years. 8 plus
years.
Yeah.
So 8 years you were there, and your family, your wife and 3 kids were in Atlanta.
Yeah.
What were those 8 years like emotionally?
It was tough. It was. I think we created a gap in those 8 years because they were growing up. I was away, but I think it was because of the economic reasons.
Yeah.
Because I was working well, and I always thought that I had transferable skills, but getting back here, getting something was always tough.
Yeah.
And which I will explain you later, that once I took this decision to permanently move here in the US at this age, so how tough it is to really get integrated in the current system and the culture and the job culture and all those things.
Yeah, and I want to say one thing is that actually my mother and father, before they had me, they used to live in the U.S. with my two sisters. And when my mother was pregnant with me, because I was born in Karachi, she decided that the family should move to Pakistan. So we are in tune with our culture, our roots, language. And it was a phenomenal decision, I think, on her part, because if that hadn't happened and I was just born here, I wouldn't know any Urdu. I wouldn't know what cricket is. I may not love the food that I love. And that's a big part of it, because that told me that how important it is to always kind of go back to, even for a little bit, where you're really from. So that's kind of why I'm here. And
Let me tell you, Asad, you are very different from a lot of other people who move here. They just get Americanized very easily.
yeah.
So I think the way you explain
I'm hard-headed.
is the hard
I'm a problematic individual.
I don't think so. Yeah, but yeah. So I think I think what we are trying to bring it on the table is every move has a reason. Every move has a justification. Sometimes we justify it right. Sometimes we cannot justify. But yes, and there are multiple layers of reasons when people move around, and I think that's same thing happened to us
Yeah.
as a family, right? So then tell me the new dimension, right? So you got educated, you went
Yeah.
to a good school, you went into a top business school here, and then you left after 3-4 years
Yeah.
and went to Columbia for film writing and whatnot, right? So
Yeah.
what was the key reason behind that?
Yeah, I worked. I went to Emory. Which has a solid business school and a solid liberal arts program as well. And I didn't know what I wanted. I mean, I studied, but I don't know why I was studying what I was studying. The passion wasn't there. And that's one thing also that I feel is really important to distinguish, is that, which I feel sad about, is that with Gen X versus millennial, and certainly now it's very different with Gen Z, is that the Gen X, Desi immigrants, didn't necessarily get to do what they love because it was so difficult financially, right, for so many of them, that they had to go down the STEM route. They had to go down the business or the corporate route because that was the only way to make a living. For me, thankfully, I had the opportunity to like feel a little more, to worry about whether I'm enjoying something, if I'm passionate about it. I am happy that obviously I supported myself when I was in college. I didn't have to rely on my father. But what was also great is that I had the ability to pick. I just didn't pick properly, when I was at Emory. So I recall like graduating and really hating what I did. When I worked in corporate America, and then I knew that I'm not old enough yet to where I want life for me to stop, want life to just kind of stop for me. And because of that, I just figured a way, like, how can I be more creative? Because, that gets my juices flowing and it feels good. And that was the only reason. It wasn't monetary at all. And then, I looked up kind of how to make short films, how to kind of write scripts, how to, direct them, put a team together, and then ended up applying to Columbia Film School, got in, and that just changed the trajectory.
So you wanted to express something, or which you felt that you were not able to do?
Yeah, So I think a lot of when you grow up with I think as a kid, if you grow up with trauma, which I kind of did, and I think anyone who loses a parent early, it's a trauma. It's hard to kind of because when you're a kid, you're being sort of molded, right, by your parents. And naturally, at least in our culture, and I think in most cultures, the main go-to parent is the mother, right, in terms of raising. And it certainly is in
fathers keep working, right?
Yeah, the fathers work. And when you don't really have that, then you grow up a little differently, and my father used to work all the time, obviously, to support us. And then when my mother wasn't there, then it was just you're kind of figuring things out on your own. And I feel like those memories are so much more vivid and they stay with you because it's a struggle that you get used to earlier rather than later in life, right, as a kid. And so that stayed with me, and that's why I was like, that story is really important. Telling those stories of those immigrants are so important. And that, I think, also helped because I didn't have a background in film or storytelling, but I knew that I had stories worth telling. So I should go learn how to express them, and that's probably why I did. But for you, before we wrap up here, I would love to know, after you left your corporate job, now you're running a small business. How has that transition been, and where are you currently with that?
Okay, let me give you a little more insight about myself, right? So I will always like to do what I would like to do, right? So I will not. So that's one thing, right? So I predominantly worked at 3 companies over my career.
Yeah.
So every time I left at the peak, when I was at the top, I left because I had a plan to do something different, right? So first company I left, I wanted to work for an international organization. Okay. Whereas I was very settled in that organization. So, okay, I got the opportunity, worked for an international organization for 15 years. Again, switch from there was very purposeful. That I wanted to go back to Pakistan. I was in Hong Kong. I was doing well. I was making a lot of money. And the organization really took care of me as well, right? So, but at that point in time, there was, I think, inner urge to go back to Pakistan and work in Pakistan. So of course, I got the best opportunity. I thought it's a calling. I should go back. I went back and I stuck around there for 4 years. And again, I think what happened after 4 years, it was during the COVID, I felt that, enough is enough. Family is here, so let's move back to US. So I took that decision.
Yeah.
And it was not, I think it was, if you evaluate that probably that was not the right thing at that point in time from the career perspective.
Yeah.
But it was more personal that, I said, okay, now a different burner needs to lit more. So it was family. So I just left and came back to US. And of course here, when you come with a certain background and you start expecting similar stuff, it doesn't happen. So then I realized quickly, and immediately I thought, okay, for the last stint, let's go for entrepreneurial, option. So I went. So now I run a accounting practice, and started building and started investing more time, and I'll make it again. So every time I left at the peak and I made it again. So here I still believe that, okay, this is last stint, so I'll do it again.
Great. Awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today, but please tune in for the second episode.